to the Essence Talk podcast. Today we're talking about the generational voices, and the topic is the father. And as we mentioned in our last podcast, it's not about just remembering that we have inherited for them. It's not also about epigenetics, but it's also about how do we deal with that? How does that affect our today? And how do we deal with that and change it to be powerful tool to improve ourselves? So today with me are Weronika and Janice. I am Yasmine, and welcome very much. So let's talk about fathers. What have we learned from them? What has the shoe really pressed, and what have we done to heal it? Janice, do you want to start?
Yes, of course. For the ones who don't know me, I I consider that I have a really rough childhood. This is not saying as a victim, but yes, I observe, and my father wasn't really present in my life. Then he was lost in drugs. When I grew up, I thought I really have a rough childhood. My father wasn't ever in the picture, but when he was in the picture, it was always something happening, okay? Although he was playing with my mom, I mean, he was cheating on my mom for many, many years. That affected me a lot because I was the one who found out. But they end up together, as a couple. So that I saw it and I admire that, even despite the circumstances. But it was very traumatized when I was growing up because having a father figure not being present, and he was just living life as he was extreme on an extreme living life mode, like taking drugs, being thinking that life is always a party, basically. That taught me a lot, really. The experiences that I have with my father, I don't regret anything because even though it was extreme, that shaped me and molded me as the person that I am today. I have accept and forgive, and love my father, even the way he was, you know. So yeah, I didn't have him. He wasn't present in my life, but at the end, I understood the way he was living life and why he did what he done to us. So yeah, I only have appreciation for my father. I'm being honest. I only have appreciation, and I still love him, despite the. I thought I learned a lot from his experience. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, if it comes to my story, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I my dad was taking care of me and my sister while my mom was working, and that was so obvious to me. That was, of course, I had my daddy, all day long, and I knew that he was gonna be at home and he will cook me soup, and I had a very, very present dad in my life. So I feel like it's a bit unfair to dig into, anything wrong that was there because he gave me and my sister everything, every moment, and the care and love, and in his way, he did the best he could. That being said, my dad is very intense and emotional. He was the first dragon, in the family, if we're using that description. So yeah, and there's no beating around the bush around that. My dad is a very very intense character, and everyone who met, all my friends who met him, they are like, "Wow, you have the best dad ever," because that is the good part of being intense. When you go out, you're all in, you're organizing, you're planning, you're there, you're outgoing, you're extrovert, you're curious, you travel, and you take care. So they got to see that part. But then everything that comes up also comes down. And that being said, he would get frustrated, you know? And I do see myself in many situations during the day. He got upset when he came back home and the shoes weren't in the perfect line. I get upset when my shoes are not in the perfect line. He was upset when the dishes were not done and he was back from being out shopping. And then yeah, I don't like my dishes not being done. So in a way, I feel like I copy a lot of those patterns, and I got huge lesson that, and to be honest, I'm still learning how to integrate this in the everyday. Yeah, but how about you, Yasmin? Did you say something?
Yeah, my relationship with my dad, the first years was of fright. I was afraid of my dad because if we did something wrong, then we would punish by being beaten. That was the corrective way of doing it, according to him. But at the end, we had an amazing relationship that was based on love. Dad was very strict. Things had to be done his way. One thing I have from my dad that every time I do it, I think, okay, this is, but that thing I don't want to change is like, he was an engineer and everything, all the pictures in the house had to be, like straight. And if the pictures were not, like, he would correct them, even if he was visiting other people. And that I kept with me. So I keep correcting the pictures even when I go to my friend's house. So when I go to visit you girls, and if that's also my dad. But I think was just one of the good things. That I was beaten by my dad also influenced me when I was working for many years ago, when one of my clients um, abruptly started hitting me. And I reacted like I did to my dad, because my dad says, when I'm going to punish you, you don't move, you accept the punishment. So in that moment, I was a 5, 6 year old child receiving punishment. That made it worse, of course, at work. But then I realized that this is what I said in the other episode, that things that are negative, I came here to learn to heal. So this is actually these experiences that also have taken me to shamanism, to study there, to heal myself. And as I said, when he died, my relationship to him was amazing. And I remember talking to him about dying, and being with him there, giving him healing. And I'm very proud of both mom and dad, of all the things that they taught me, for good or bad. I remember being aggressive to my children. I didn't hit him with the belt, but I remember being aggressive to them. I remember once I damaged a door. I kicked it and got a hole, and the children got scared. So they still talk about it as a grown up. But one thing I learned is that uh, my children's body was not mine, was theirs, and I should never punish them physically. I would take the internet away or something like that, because I didn't want to become my father. So yes, it was. This is a tough topic to talk about.
I
Um,
like how you said about that it brought you to shamanism, because I relate to that. I feel like as inheriting in a way all the explosiveness I felt when I discovered yoga. In the beginning, it was purely physical. I loved putting the energy that normally would have been anger. I was putting it into teaching and guiding people with highly intensive workout. The fitness and yoga, the one that we do here in Copenhagen, is the power oriented. So I could be there and I could transmit it. It's such a discovery. It doesn't have to be anger or anxiety, it can be productive. That was a big thing for me, for sure. And then I discovered that the same kind of power is led by meditation and meditating there. But it's a different kind of less exciting energy, but still as rewarding. That's a discovery of me of this year, that the energy can be both yin and yang.
Yes, and that balance, as you said, that creating that balance, it has to do with what we are learned from children, with mom and dad, and that makes a disbalance or unbalance in us as grown-ups, and then we have to work. Much of the path of the spiritualist is trying to balance that energy, trying to accept our female part, our male part, and that they interact with each other, and makes us a better person. What about you, Janice?
Absolutely. When I was thinking about what do you get from your dad, he grew up in a jungle south of Luzon Visayas in the Philippines. He didn't he didn't express himself in any language probably, but we understood what he was trying to say. He would used to tell us the stories about what he was living in the jungle. He used to see I call it invisible world, and he tell us the stories about things that nowadays suddenly society don't believe. Or he used to tell us, in the in Asia in general, they still see these things. He used to tell us that he was swimming with he saw some mermaids, and and in the deep in the jungle in the where he grew up, he sees things that perhaps, when I was telling this to my Spanish classmate, they were like, "What are you saying?" And I thought that was normal. I was just sharing stories, and I thought, okay, I should not say these things. But I grew up with him, and this is why I was so into know the invisible world, as I call it, because in my family it was quite normal, you know. So yeah, part of what I learned from him, it was rough, and I appreciate it, but also it was not magical. It was his truth, and I live on, you know, what he experienced. So yeah.
When you say about the magical or the invisible world, as we call it, I would call the other side of life. How much has been influenced your father in that area of your life? Do you think?
I think I am the way I am because I follow his path. I believe.
Do you think it's a belief?
No, it's it's a reality in Asia. Um, what we do not experience, what I didn't experience in Spain, is just what they live, like what they experience in every day. So yeah.
It's interesting because my dad would love to take us to the movies, to the cinema. And then it would be the greatest, and I could see he loves all the Marvel movies, and me and my sister would be like, yeah, joining in the superhero stories. And it was all great, and he's into all the fantasy and science fiction. But every time after the movie, he would have to spoil the fun, saying, "But children, this was just a movie. Don't feel it. Don't live it so deeply. Don't believe in everything that you see." And we were always like, "No, come on, Dad. Why do you ruin the fun?" Like we were still in the feeling of, when you leave the cinema as a child, and you're like, the magic was real. And then he's like, "No, but this was just a movie." I used to be so pissed at him. I don't know why.
But in my house, it was completely the opposite. He said, "This is what is happening, and this is the reality." And I was like, okay. So influenced me a lot. Yeah.
My dad was he would call himself my number one fan. So whenever I had a course or something that I dictated in South America, he would be the first one to sign up for it, and he would take my mom with him. And he was a very good healer, really, really good healer. And I remember once I had this course, it was a weekend course about relationships and sexuality, and my parents were there. And then when my mom was the one that came and said, "Oh, it was so nice listening to the normal things a couple does." And I was like, like I was trying to explain everything during the weekend, like I was not, don't my parents wouldn't react that hard. So, and they were the ones filling up my classes with people, and they were, and when that time my mom came and said that it was so nice listening to what normal people do, and that it was normal to have sex when they were older and all that stuff, finding, and that was like, wow, I was so surprised, and I'm proud of them that they dare to do this, and they dare to support me. And remember my dad said, don't ever, I remember his last words before he died, the last time I talked to him, and he said he was proud of me because I was his daughter. He was proud of being my father, and I should always keep behaving differently, and believing and doing what I believe was right. That I shouldn't bend myself for nobody else. And then that's why I said that my relationship with dad was really nice at the end, because he really supported me and gave me the the push I needed to go. And he said, go and write your books, go on and say your words and your experiences, because you might help other people. And this is, I think all three of us are there because this is why we're here, to help others understand what they're going through, and that even though things might look dark, they're in reality not dark, they're just the other side of the of what we're going to go to.
And I love how it's usually one parent that drags the other one into different things. So I know my mom, she's also interested in the self growth and spirituality. And so she would play different videos, and she would listen to things, like podcasts and things. And my dad, he would sit on the other side of the room, and he would read a book, but she could see that he was like, listening. His ear was growing bigger, as we say, and so he would perhaps not play it in his own on the TV, and he wouldn't watch it, but he was always there, like. So I think it's nice that you sometimes what you do affects your partner and your family, and just you changing can change. Do you think that's true? Me changing can change how he reacts to the emotions and explosions of emotion.
Definitely.
I believe so. That's my experience. When we release our pain because of something we have learned from them, uh, it's about our own way. It's not about me releasing my parents or releasing the generations before me or after me. It's about me going my path. And when I go my path, then a consequence of working with myself is releasing their pain, and hindering that the pain goes further. But it's about me. It's about you, Janice. It's about you, Veronica. It's about your path. We have talked in this podcast that we have we are afraid to hurt other people, so we have said yes to things we actually wanted to say no. And this is part of the process of learning, process of giving good, healthy limits, putting healthy limits. Like Janice mentioned on the other time, that maybe you have to be cruel to be happy. It's like putting limits and saying, I do not accept that. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's about awareness, of being aware that I have a pain, what is causing the pain, and what do I need to do to eliminate the pain. This is the process of development.
Can you then pick only the good things from each of your parents and keep that and give them back the ones that you don't want?
That's a very good question, because I believe that you come to your parents because whatever they're going to teach you is not either good or bad. For the soul, it's not either good or bad. It's just an experience. And you get it's like a mathematical problem. You get the mathematical problem, and it's up to you how you're going to solve it. It's up to you to say this was bad, or at the end, everything that I mentioned regarding my mom, that it was awful for me in periods. Today, I'm so thankful because she did what she did. Because without that, I wouldn't be the person I am. So it's like trying to put another kind of prisma, or trying to see things from another perspective. My grandmother used to say all the time, it's not about what you experience, it's what it's behind of delusion. Look for what behind of delusion, then you will understand. And to begin with, I didn't know what she's talking about. And then afterwards, I understand that it's the experience. She wasn't talking about the pain, but the experience he has given. It's like going to a university. It's going to a, I think it's amazing what you learn and how you solve it. Maybe we get the same mathematical problem where we have it in this podcast. We wanted to talk about essence, but we solve it differently. It's the same topic, but we have different experiences. And this is the way it is for everything.
The other time we were talking about writing a letter to one of your parents or both of them. Can you explain to me the idea behind it and how will that help with the epigenetics?
Everything has to do with awareness. 50% of a healing process is about being aware. Janice has mentioned it several times. You have mentioned it. I have mentioned it. It's about being aware that I have a topic here that I have to heal. It's like an alcoholic. If the alcoholic doesn't accept that he's an alcoholic, he will never heal. You have to accept the reality. So when you accept that you have pain, it's not about criticizing your parents. It's not about telling, oh, my dad was bad and blah, blah, blah. He hit me or whatever. Yeah, as a child, I thought, why are you hitting me? Why is he hitting me when he thought he was correcting me? And I even asked him as a grown up, why did you hit me? And then I understood that when he was a child, he was also hit. See, so it's about accepting this has happened. I cannot do anything with what has happened, but how can I change that? How can I get the information or the lesson out of it and put the pain away? So many times when I ask people to write letters to the parents that they're not going to give to the parents, it's just a conversation with themselves, with their inner father, with the inner mother, to understand what is in there. Once you see it, then you can heal it.
We also want to add something. We were talking about the parents, and we are talking about everyone in general. When my dad did, he didn't really know better. He was like acting in his conscious level of conscious of mind. So it's when you are dealing with your boss, perhaps, or your friend, they don't really know better. This is why they are acting this way. And you are now working on yourself, on your personal self. So you should go, instead of the person in front of you, you go to yourself, like how this affects you, and observe.
The parents didn't know better. That's because if they knew better, they would have done better.
Yeah.
So what can help us to writing the letter can help us to be aware of what we want to change or where it hurts. What other things have you experienced that help you to realize that you have this pain and that you have been working with it? To give some practical experiences to our listeners.
So practice that if you are working on your personal development, your boss, for example, or your partner, go to the same pattern over and over again. I always highlight this: act as an observant, like what is happening within yourself, because the person perhaps maybe cannot change the way he is, because it's, as we said, is already been programmed with a set of beliefs. So if this person is not working on themselves, you could just observe yourself. As I mentioned about the parents, I accepted and I appreciate the experience of my dad, because I said he didn't know better. So you could apply this in your daily basis. When you have an argument with a person, with your boss, whoever is around you, you should act as the bigger person. as you are working in your personal development, you should act as the bigger person in this case. So yeah.
You know what worked for me with speaking of the the father, how we in the beginning we would fuel each other. Imagine two volcanoes and each of them throwing lava and lava and lava and everything around burning, and we would fuel each other, like adding to each other's fire. One person says something, the other person, and then and then the heat in the room. So it was a huge challenge, huge, and because I felt like why do I have to change myself? Why do I have to put on the work? Why not him? He was the one that started. But then eventually, it happened some years ago. Then I was like, okay, well, I'm tired of being at home and feeling like my energy is being drained away because of this. Because I figured out other ways now. And I was and he was starting the first, heat. And then I just let it pass me. It was eureka. It was like discovering a new world because I was maybe not observant, but I was not letting that energy, if we're talking about energies, I didn't let it sink in and start my volcano. So my volcano was not on. And then and he kept throwing lava, but then at some point he also stopped because I was not yelling. And then somehow the energy is working from the other side. It's like, electrons that pass on the current. And then they're just like, okay, no. And then the whole house dynamics changed. And I believe now it's what still happens because, come on, it kind of feels good to argue a bit. And for me, I get some sort of like a weird release of my own anger. I don't know. It feels sometimes good to yell a little bit back and forth, and then you're like, after thunderstorms, let's have a tea now, and it's good. Is it just me?
That's I love the way you say it. For me, it's a good cry. It's good to have a good cry. And sometimes I put films that just to cry, to feel that I cry because it makes me feel alive. And I guess that's what you're talking about. That a good quarrel makes you feel alive.
I stopped doing that because it's not fair to the people around, and it's also not the most efficient way. So as I said, the yoga, meditation, and even
But
walk is better than arguing, peeps.
and to me, sorry to interrupt, my father was super funny. Um, like he make a joke like so stupid, and I learned that from him. When I'm very my close friends, I'm just like the funny one because like to me, having a laugh or laughing every day is just releasing like any tension in my body. So yeah, to me it's just like laughing. Laughing is to me is the best medicine. It's just like yeah, how I release these stuck emotions within me.
I wish we would write a podcast or episode on that.
Yeah.
We could do that. We could do that. Um, if you could speak to close up, and this also goes for the listeners. If you could talk to your grandfather or your father, something you really deep want to say, what kind of language, what kind of emotions, or what kind of values would you use to talk to them? Will you be compassionate? Will you be angry? Will you be tolerant? Or what kind of message would you give them?
I was thinking about what message I will give to my dad. His language was like Latin, and I wouldn't be the daughter that who fix or who is like worried or no. I will be having a laugh with him as a friendship relationship and just having a talk with him in a nice and easy way. Yeah, I will love to. My dad passed, so yeah. Sometimes I think about it, you know.
Okay, well, if I could say something, and I probably am saying it because he's probably watching this, what I would say is realize how powerful the emotion that comes is, and realize that that emotion is the magic, and you can use it to create, not to disturb.
Lovely. Lovely. I will tell my dad the same thing I told him when he was dying, that I'm proud of being his daughter and everything he had taught me. And I love him very much.
I would also say that. Come on, I didn't know we should say that.
You can say it too.
I
but
do.
this,
I...
but this
No,
is
I'm
also
joking.
for all the listeners. And what would you tell your grandfather or your grandmother, or your ancestors or your father today? And what kind of value would you add in that conversation? Write it down. Maybe it will help you to see where the pain or the thankfulness of being I've learned from them is. So the next podcast we're going to talk about the art of being present. So thank you very much, and thank you, Janice. Thank you, Veronica, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.